Week 5 of the 2022-2023 NJCAA season has come to a close, and with 9 Central District games to recap, and with 9 more games to go over in the preview section, let's go ahead and jump into the first matchup of the day. And that first matchup of the day was John A. Logan versus Kaskaskia. Logan comes away with an 86-74 win over the Blue Devils, handing Kaskaskia their second straight loss. Now, with that being said, both of Kaskaskia's losses have been to ranked opponents. The 13th ranked Volunteers were led by Elijah Jones with 24 points, while Jalen Petty and Emmanuel Prosper again led the way for the Blue Devils, each having 16 points. Logan, again, they dominated the game. I thought going into the game they were going to. Logan's going to be a very tough team this year. And Kaskaskia unfortunately ran into a buzzsaw, but once again, the Blue Devils had a tough opening 2 games, first with Vincennes, and then in the second game of the Wednesday slate, pitted Lakeland versus Wabash Valley. Both teams coming off of a loss, both teams hoping to get their first win of the season, and Lakeland was able to get that with an 87-82 win, and it was led by Yassine Hassan, who had 17 points. Again, for Wabash Valley, they were able to keep into this ballgame, which I thought they were going to do going in. I thought that they were going to be able to handle Lakeland's perimeter game a little bit more. Again, not a lot of bench play from Wabash Valley, and I said going into that game that bench play was going to be the key, and Lakeland was able to get a little bit more off of it, so they were able to even up their record at 1-1. Wabash falls at this point in the season to 0-2 in district play, but again, they had another game coming up on Saturday, which I'll get to later on in the video. Matchup that I was looking forward to that wasn't the Battle of the Trailblazers, which I'll get into later, was Lincoln Trail versus Swick. Lincoln Trail was able to pick up their first district win on the season, winning the game 72-64, and it was really a balanced scoring for the Statesmen. They had 5 players in double figures, with Craig Jenkins and Clint Wycliffe each scoring 17 points. Chris Felix Jr. added 15, and Mike Reese scored 10. And for Swick, it was really the Jacques Franklin show. He scored 23 points for the Blue Storm, but nobody else was able to get in double digits, and that's what really propelled Lincoln Trail to the win here. They led at the half by 5, and they were able just to hold on to that momentum and really stifle the Swick balanced scoring play that was not anybody but Jacques was really held in check in this game. Speaking of teams that were able to pick up their first district win of the season, let's go ahead and talk about the Olney Central Shawnee game. The Blue Devils were able to pick up the win, winning the game 88-61, and really they had complete control into this ballgame. And really it was the second half, because it was tied at halftime at 34. Marshawn Dickerson was able to lead the way for the Blue Devils with Blue Knights with 19 points, and Sims added 18 of his own. Those two guys, like I said, they were going to be the big contributing factors for Olney, and they were able to do it against Shawnee. They were able to really keep the Saints to only having a couple guys in double figures. The Saints fall to 3-3, and again, the fact that the Saints really haven't played that many games, that coming into the game against Olney, I think is what really hurt them going in. Olney improved their record to 6-2 in the season, while Shawnee fell to 3-3. But again, this game was incredibly close in the first half. It was tied at 34, and Olney was able to find that second gear and just own the second half, and again, winning by 27 points. And of course, the last game of the Wednesday slate was the Vincennes Lewis and Clark, the Battle of the Trailblazers, as I like to call it. And really, Vincennes was really able to keep in control of the game for the most part. I say most part because there were times where Vincennes kind of let off the gas, and that's when Lewis and Clark was really able to get into the ballgame. They got it close a couple different times, but really Shiloh Jackson, he was able to step up in a big way in this game. He had 23 points and 12 rebounds. It was really not only Shiloh, but it was the bench play. VU's bench had 34 points, and Lewis and Clark's bench was just not able to keep up. Vincennes won this game handily, 90 to 59, and it handed the Trailblazers their 699th win on the PE Complex floor, which opened in 1974. Thank you, Dave Hunter, for that stat. Again, the Vincennes Trailblazers win the first battle of the Trailblazers handily, and they really dominated with bench play and on the rebounds. They led the game at the half, 41-32. So like I said, they were able to extend this out a little bit more. But it was really the fact that Shiloh was able to step up as that sophomore leader that I thought he was going to be earlier on in the season. And he was able to take control against a team that he's had success in the past with. Last year, he had his career high 24 points. He was only 1 point shy of that this night. So like I said, Wednesday, the full slate played. On Saturday, it was more of a 4-game balance for the district. We had a couple of teams that had we call them buys in the district, where you don't play an opponent. That was Shawnee and Swick this week. On Saturday, they did not have a district opponent. Everybody else did. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the Logan, Lewis and Clark game. And again, like I said, going into this game was the only one that I thought was not going to be a good game going into the weekend. Logan was able to win this game by 30 points. And again, really was able to handle that because of Isaiah Stafford. He had 15 points, and LT White for the Lewis and Clark Trailblazers led the way with 14. Logan led the game by 10 at the half. So again, Lewis and Clark can play with these guys a little bit. It's really in the second half where teams start to pull away from them. And again, the fact that Lewis and Clark now has only played 6 games really hurts them, because Logan goes to 7-2. And I think those extra games, and again, the strength of schedule before the district really helped Logan into this. I think it would be a little bit harder, especially since it was a road game, if Logan didn't already have tough road wins on their resume. Like I said, Isaiah Stafford, a transfer from University of Southern Indiana, coming into Logan, able to help them perpetuate a win, this time on the scoreboard. He's been able to do it in other ways off the floor, but to be able to be one of the leading scorers here today was really important for him, and he was able to get that. Logan was able to move up into the rankings this week, and it is going to be very interesting to see later on in the season how this Vincennes-Logan, this is going to be the matchup of the year, I think. It's going to be Vincennes versus Logan, and we saw this a little bit with Lewis and Clark versus Logan here. Speaking of Vincennes, they had a battle on their hands when they faced Olney Central. They win the game 73-67, but it really was not. It was a lot closer than what even that score indicated. They were down midway into the second half by 4 points, and Olney was able to enclose the gap a little bit more with 1:55 left, 69-66, but they ended up having to foul, and Vincennes was able to hit their free throws and walk away from the dungeon with a big-time win. And this was a big-time win not only for the Trailblazers, but for Coach Franklin. He was able to go up against his old assistant coach and Jim Glash again. These two guys met when Coach Franklin was the head coach over at Southeastern Illinois, and Glash was the head coach at Olney. So both of these guys knew each other very well. Glash was on Coach Franklin's coaching staff last year, and it is very good to see that Coach Glass and Coach Franklin have so much mutual respect for each other. And this was a bruising battle from the start. Again, it was a back-forth affair. Yes, Vincennes led the game at the half by 11, but Olney Central was able to take the lead and to maintain the lead for a little bit there in the second half before Vincennes was able to really take control of the game like they should have, in my opinion. And again, I'm a Vincennes guy, so I'm always going to say that. Osei Bonsu had another double-double with 11 points and 10 rebounds. Shiloh was able to grab 12 rebounds, and it was really fun because both of them had with 4 fouls. So it was really, for them, post play really got them into foul trouble, and they were able to stay on the floor towards the end there. Darian Lewis led the game for the Blue Knights with 20 points, and Marshawn Dickerson scored 19. So again, the Knights were able to do what they wanted to do. Unfortunately, they weren't able to come up with the win. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens when it's the turnaround and they have to travel to Vincennes for that game. The next game on the docket was Kaskaskia versus Lakeland, and Kaskaskia was able to break their 2-game district losing streak, posting a 92-85 win over the Lakers. Emmanuel Prosper again was able to lead the way in scoring with 19 points. Jalen Petty added 15 of his own. Yassine Hassan for the Lakers had 25 points. Dallas Clocks had 22. But really, it was the free throw game. Teams combined shot 57 free throws, 27 of 36 for Kaskaskia, and 21 of 31 for the Lakers. It was a 5-point game at the half with Kaskaskia in the lead, and they were able to hold on and beat the Lakers for their first district win of the season. The final district game on Saturday was Lincoln Trail versus Wabash Valley. The Trail was able to pick up their second district win, winning this game 66-61. Again, Clint Wycliffe was able to lead the way with 16 points. Brandon Razor Moore hit 5 triples for the Warriors. It was a very close game. It was a 2-point lead for the Trail at the half, but in the end, more balanced scoring and no bench scoring for the Warriors was really the difference for the Trail to pick up their second district win, and for Wabash, surprisingly, to be 0-3 in district play to this point. Again, there's still 15 games left for these guys to play each other, but early in the season, to be 0-3 is not where you want to be if you're the Warriors. Now that I recapped the 9 games from last week, let's go ahead and jump into the 8 games this week. Swick has an off day on December 7th, but that doesn't mean that we don't have some great matchups on the floor, starting with the Lewis and Clark Trailblazers going against the Lakeland Lakers. It's going to be in Mattoon, and I think that's going to be the difference here. I think the Lakers are just going to be able to spread the ball out a little bit more. They're going to be able to get their perimeter shots up a little bit better, hit higher percentages, and I think they're finally going to start to find their bench presence. Lewis and Clark, they're beaten up, to be completely honest with you. They played 2 games against ranked opponents in Vincennes and Logan, losing both of those handily, and I just don't see how they're able to bounce back at this point. I think this is a promising team for the young Trailblazers, but the fact that you just got your teeth kicked in twice by ranked opponents, I think it's going to be a little bit hard. Now, that's not saying that they can't. I'm just saying that it's going to be difficult for Lakeland or for Lewis and Clark to do it, especially on the road, where I've talked about this and coaches have talked about this. Winning on the road in this district is very, very difficult. It's difficult everywhere, but with this district, there is no bad team, really. You have teams that are under 500, but they've played quality opponents. Another one of those quality opponents matching up are going to be the Kaskaskia Blue Devils and the Lincoln Trail Statesmen, and that's going to be in Robinson. So, again, the Statesmen, I think, are going to be able to pull out the win here. Kaskaskia, you have Emmanuel Prosper, but with Lincoln Trail, you have 4 or 5 guys that you can count on religiously, and it's going to be very good to see the Statesmen, I think, pick up their 3rd win of the district play. Doggy agrees with me. We're going to take the Statesmen in this game. 3rd of the Wednesday games is going to be Olney Central at John A. Logan. And like Lewis and Clark before them, I think Olney is going to have a problem against Logan, just because they beat up on Vincennes. Vincennes beat up on them, and Logan was able to skate by with an easy win against Lewis and Clark. So I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a closer game than what Logan's going to be used to going into this. But I do think that the Volunteers, ranked in the top 10 this week, are going to be able to win this game. I wouldn't be surprised if Olney pulled out a victory, because they were able to do that late last year on the floor. But I just think that Logan is starting to really find their groove now. They beat a very good opponent in Moberly. So yeah, I think Logan's going to take this, but I think it's going to be probably closer to the Vincennes score for Olney. So they're going to have I think they're going to have back-to-back tough losses. But that's going to build character for Coach Glash and the Blue Knights. And I think this is going to show what Coach Smith Peters really has as a team going into their game on Saturday. And the last matchup I'm going to talk about in the Wednesday block of games is going to be Shawnee at Vincennes. Shawnee returns to Vincennes for the second time this year. They played in the Classic at the beginning of the year. Not facing Vincennes because they don't do that. They played two other opponents. So this is going to be the first time that Shawnee sees Vincennes in a head-to-head matchup this year, obviously. It's going to be very interesting because Shawnee was able to pull out the win against Vincennes when Vincennes had the lead late last year in the district playoffs. And Shawnee was able to come back from 10 points down under 5 minutes to go. And I saw that game, and Vincennes just completely collapsed. I think Vincennes is a tougher team this year. I don't think Coach Franklin's going to allow that to happen. I think they're going to be more disciplined and able to move the ball, chin it when they go for the rebound, and able to seal off on their assignments, and they're able to kind of work their game, which is post to perimeter shot and making good shot selections. I think Shawnee is going to test them again. So Vincennes has two really tough tests back to back in Olney and then Shawnee. I think it's going to be a very close game. I think it's going to be Vincennes by probably 10, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's even closer than that. Or I could be completely wrong and either team just blows the other one out of the water. Saturday's slate of games is going to be a very good one. And let's go ahead and start with Swick versus Wabash Valley. The Blue Storm having the night off on Wednesday night and then coming in to Mount Carmel to face the Warriors of Wabash Valley, who actually have a game Wednesday night. They play Wren Lake as a conference GRAC game. It is not going to go against them on the district, so that's why I'm not mentioning it as much. So Swick is going to recover a little bit while Wabash is going to have tired legs. With that being, and I think that's going to really be the difference. I think Swick is going to be able to bounce back from their loss to Lincoln Trail and learn from that and able to be better on the floor against Wabash Valley. And it's just going to be, I think Swick's going to win by 15. Speaking of the Statesmen, let's go ahead and see what they have. They have the Lewis and Clark Trailblazers at Godfrey. Again, Lewis and Clark, man, they draw short straws. They have Lakeland. I think they might, like I said, I think the Lakers are going to pick up their win there. I think the Trailblazers are going to continue to slide, and they are going to fall here to Lewis and Clark. Lewis and Clark, again, overall, just a better team. I can see this kind of going the way of their Logan game last week, especially since both those games were at home. And I really wouldn't be surprised if Lincoln Trail won by 20 because they're able to spread the ball out. They're able to get what they want done inside, and they're able to kick it out for threes and just really able to work the boards. And I just think that Lewis and Clark, while they're improving, they're not to that level yet. And I just think that the Statesmen are, again, playing those tougher non-district games at the beginning of the season is what I think is what really is going to perpetuate the Statesmen over the Trailblazers here. Next game, and again, Shawnee versus Logan. Man, the teams that Vincennes plays that Logan plays is scary because, again, last week Vincennes played Lewis and Clark, then Logan played Lewis and Clark, and Vincennes played Olney, then Logan plays Olney on Wednesday. Now, Vincennes played Shawnee on Wednesday, then Logan plays Shawnee on Saturday. It's going to be a tough one for the Saints. I'm sorry. I like the Saints. I think that they're going to be a good ball club, but back-to-back top 10 ranked teams here, and it's at Logan, too. I just think that Logan's going to roll with this game. They're going to win by 20, and again, it's not that Shawnee's bad, because they're not. Coach Sparks over there is doing a great job. It's just the fact that you run into two buzzsaws. You run into the top two teams in the district right now, both sitting at 3-0 while this video goes up. They could be 4-0 and Logan go to 5-0 with this win. And I just see that happening here. And it's a shame because Shawnee is promising. They're just not at this level of caliber yet. That brings the final game of the district's slate to Olney Central versus Lakeland in the Dungeon. Again, all these games on Saturday are being played 4 o'clock Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Central. So, Lakeland versus Olney. Olney, I think, is going to bounce back and being able to be on their home floor. They're able to pick up a win that they desperately need. Again, I think it's going to be closer because Lakeland is going to be able to do some stuff that Vincennes was able to do against Olney, but I think Coach Glash is going to be able to see what he did, what opportunities he missed against Vincennes, and then again, I think that Logan's going to win this game against Olney. So Olney's going to be tested. And now that they play a Lakeland team that has not had that gauntlet yet, I just see that Olney going to be able to pull out a win here. I think they're going to win probably by 10. And with only 2 losses on their district slate right now, and those 2 losses being to the top 2 teams again, says a lot about this team under first-year head coach for the second time around, Coach Glash. So that's going to do for this week's episode, guys. And again, I only focused on the district games because now we're really starting to get into the meat and the potatoes of the district season. So any of the games that I don't mention that you see on team schedules, it's because they're not district games. Like I said, Swick has an off day on Wednesday. Wabash plays Rend Lake, so that's a GRAC game that is not a district game. Then on the flip side, on Saturday, Kaskaskia plays Rend Lake for their conference. Vincennes will play Harry S. Truman up in Chicago. Again, obviously not a district game, so I'm not mentioning those 2 games for that reason. Like I said last week to the games that were not district games, I hope that the district teams do well. Obviously, as a Vincennes guy, I am going to root for Vincennes over Harry Truman. I'm going to root for Vincennes every week. But again, being able to do these types of videos, being able to deep dive into each of these teams that I've really got to know for 3 years has really been cathartic for me in a sense, because I'm able to do something that I really enjoy, and I'm able to talk about a district that deserves more national recognition that they have gotten in the past. And that's what I'm doing here. That's going to do it for this week's episode, everybody. I will see you next week. Bye.